Rastafari, Rasta blessings to all. This is Ras John Fari. On part 2 here was Marcus Garvey faithful to himself. And here, as you see, is a video called Proof Haile Selassie Did Not Flee But Was Advised by Warriors. And here you will hear for yourself the truth about what happened. His Majesty, of course, did not flee Ethiopia, but was told to by his closest warriors in the fight against fascist Italy, which, of course, Marcus Garvey took as a sign of a coward. But let's listen here, and then I will go on more. Here we go.
Church of Lalibela. Haile Selassie planned to move to the hills and fight a guerrilla campaign, but his chiefs and advisors knew their broken armies could not fight on. They persuaded the emperor to leave Ethiopia. On May the 2nd, the imperial family left by train for Djibouti, en route for Palestine, and exile in London.
Yes, sir. Rastafari to that. So there you go. There's the proof that His Majesty did not run, as was reported by Marcus Garvey in his editorial on the black man, but that His Majesty was told to and advised to go to England. Well, His Majesty was advised by his warriors to flee because there was no need for further destruction and death. And His Majesty, of course, went to Palestine, which I showed you in one of my videos on my other channel of how the Palestinians and the so-called Jews saw His Majesty and they said, "Oh, the Messiah has returned." But that's for another topic and for another time. But this is an interesting thing right here. This is dated between September and October of 1936. And this is a Garveyite named Una Brown writing to Marcus Garvey. And I won't read all of it, but I will read enough for you here to understand the point. I read your article. This is to Marcus Garvey, sir, from Una Brown. I read your article in the August issue of The Black Man entitled The Italian Conquest. Also, your unjust criticism of Emperor Haile Selassie. We in America do not believe those are your sentiments, sir. You know Abyssinia was hemmed in by colonies dominated by whites. When Mussolini declared his intention of subduing Ethiopia, see, she says Ethiopia, she doesn't really use Abyssinia like Garvey did. He made it clear that his specific agenda was to suppress the arms traffic for the benefit of Europe because, yes, His Majesty was again going to get arms from Europe, but they suspended sending him arms, and he paid for advance to them. So it was a conglomerate of the entire Gentile Goyim nations, which in my other channel I mentioned how they all got together and conspired against the King of Kings. Now, this is an interesting point here she makes. The emperor is a descendant of Solomon. Why should he renounce his right to his heritage on either side? Solomon was a Jew, black, but comely. Read the Songs of Solomon. The original Jews were a black race, a righteous Ethiopian Hebrew Israelite right here. History tells us Solomon and the Queen of Sheba gave him a background rivaled by no other monarch in the world. I feel like a lot of others that you have been quite unfair in your writing. The emperor's wife was an Ethiopian. Why do you blame him for the wives of his diplomats marry? You see, Garvey again tried to use the race card. Even though his diplomats married other nations, I think Japan and maybe some of the Gentile European nations, but still, His Majesty kept to the order that he married somebody of Ethiopic African stock. So again, Garvey played a race thing that only backfired in his face. Moses' wife was an African woman, not of Jewish stock. He led the children of Israel through the Red Sea. Solomon fell in love with the Queen of Sheba, who was not of his race. Even though they were black, but she was Ethiopic, Shemitic, but Solomon was Hebraic, but we'll get into that another time. But whose country supplied the gold of the building of the temple which God desired. Napoleon's wife was a colored woman from the West Indies, and France was the greatest country in Europe during Napoleon's reign. And then she concludes here about your letter to the Ethiopian government. About your letter to the Ethiopian government, return unopened. That was proof enough that the letter was not delivered, and if it was, the emperor could not have read it through an unbroken seal. You extol the idea of the Negro standing behind the British government. Yes, so they can sell like they did Abyssinia. Yes, my lord, we hated the boys for antagonizing you, and you who have done so much for the race. Surprise the entire race for saying the emperor has outlived his usefulness and should seek asylum. See, again, there's that thing that Garvey, wrote to the emperor with a letter, but the letter was sealed. So what does that tell you? Again, Garvey was playing this propaganda plow against the King of Kings. And his response to this was basically his usual rhetoric. You refer to we in America, this is Marcus Garvey. I do not know where you mean by we. I think we means yourself, because knowing the race as I do, I think when they have the facts before them, they do not act so silly as to let other people laugh at them. From the nature of your letter, it doesn't appear that you are a Negro at all. See, Garvey again attacks someone, again playing this ultra-racial thing, which is his own personal downfall. He's like John the Baptist. He lost his head. And in my next vids and the coming days and weeks, I will touch in about Dr. Bayan and about how I see him more of a John the Baptist to His Majesty than Marcus Garvey. But let me conclude with this. You suggest that the emperor should not be blamed for appointing diplomats to represent Abyssinia. Of course, he has to say that. Who are married